You know your emotions better than anyone. So why do social interactions still feel hard? Discover the invisible bridge between emotional intelligence and natural social fluency. You're emotionally intelligent, but you're missing something. Introduction. You've mastered the internal landscape of your emotions. Through dedication and self-reflection, you've developed the ability to identify your feelings with precision, process them effectively, and navigate your emotional terrain with increasing confidence. You understand the nuances between frustration and anger, disappointment and sadness, excitement and anxiety. This emotional intelligence serves you well in many aspects of life. Yet something crucial remains, just out of reach. Despite your emotional awareness, authentic social connections often feel elusive. In meetings, you read the room perfectly, but struggle to shape the energy. During conversations, you process your feelings skillfully, but miss that effortless flow others seem to achieve naturally. At social gatherings, you manage your emotional state expertly, yet find yourself wondering why deeper connections remain challenging. This persistent gap isn't a reflection of inadequate emotional intelligence or a lack of social skills. It points to something more fundamental: the invisible bridge between internal awareness and social mastery. Like having a sophisticated instrument but playing it alone, emotional intelligence without social fluency limits the full expression of your capabilities. Many emotionally intelligent individuals find themselves in this position. They've developed remarkable insight into their internal world, but haven't discovered how to translate this understanding into natural social connection. The missing piece isn't another technique to master or skill to practice. It's a fundamental shift in how you perceive social dynamics themselves. This book illuminates this invisible bridge. Rather than adding more tools to your emotional intelligence toolkit, it reveals how to see social interactions through an entirely new lens. The transformation occurs not through accumulating more knowledge, but through shifting your perspective on how human connection actually works. The journey ahead unfolds in three parts. First, you'll discover how emotional intelligence, while powerful, can sometimes create unexpected barriers to social fluency. Next, you'll explore how social dynamics operate differently than most emotionally intelligent people assume. Finally, you'll learn to transform your emotional awareness from a spotlight that shines inward to a lighthouse that illuminates both your inner world and the shared space between you and others. This isn't about becoming someone you're not or learning to perform in social situations. It's about completing the journey you've already begun, bridging the gap between self-knowledge and authentic connection. The path forward doesn't require you to change who you are. It invites you to see what has always been there but remained hidden from view. You stand at the threshold of this invisible bridge. Your emotional intelligence has brought you this far. Now it's time to discover how that same intelligence, when seen through a new lens, naturally evolves into the social mastery you seek. Chapter 1. The Introspection Trap. You're sitting alone after a social gathering, doing what you do best, processing your emotions with remarkable precision. Layer by layer, you peel back your feelings about each interaction, cataloging the subtle shifts between anxiety and excitement, between connection and distance. Your emotional awareness is like a finely tuned instrument, detecting every nuance of your internal experience. Yet despite this sophisticated self-knowledge, something feels missing. The more precisely you analyze your emotions, the more disconnected you feel from the actual experiences you're analyzing. This pattern reveals a paradox at the heart of emotional intelligence. The very skills that give you insight into your emotional world can create an invisible barrier between you and others. This phenomenon, what we might call the introspection trap, occurs when emotional intelligence becomes so focused inward that it creates a psychological echo chamber. Imagine standing in an actual echo chamber. Every sound you make returns to you with perfect clarity. You can hear the subtle variations in your voice, the precise timing of each echo, the way sounds overlap and intersect. This acoustic precision is remarkable, but it comes at a cost. You can't hear anything from outside the chamber. The more intently you focus on the echoes, the more isolated you become from the world beyond those reflecting walls. This mirrors what happens when emotional intelligence becomes too self-focused. Your internal awareness grows increasingly sophisticated, but this very sophistication can blind you to the broader social dynamics happening around you. It's like using a powerful telescope to study your own reflection. The instrument is remarkable, but its purpose has become distorted. In conversation, this trap manifests as an excessive focus on managing and analyzing your own emotional responses. While others are sharing their experiences, you're internally cataloging your reactions, preparing your responses, or evaluating your emotional state. The irony is that this sophisticated self-awareness actually prevents you from being truly present in the interaction. In relationships, the introspection trap turns intimate connections into subjects for emotional analysis. Rather than experiencing the natural flow of connection, you find yourself constantly monitoring and evaluating your feelings about the relationship. This meta-level awareness, while valuable in moderation, can create an artificial distance between you and genuine intimacy. In group settings, the trap becomes even more pronounced. While others are creating shared experiences, you're focused on managing your internal state. Your emotional intelligence becomes like a wall of mirrors, reflecting your own experiences back at you, while obscuring the dynamic social ecosystem you're meant to be part of. This isn't to diminish the value of introspection or emotional awareness. These skills form the foundation of personal growth and emotional intelligence. However, when overemphasized, they can create a form of emotional solipsism, a state where your own emotional experience becomes the primary or only reality you can access. The key to escaping this trap isn't to abandon introspection, but to expand its scope. Instead of using emotional intelligence as a mirror, it can become a window, one that allows you to see both your internal landscape and the social world beyond it. This shift doesn't require learning new skills, but rather redirecting your existing emotional awareness outward as well as inward. When you notice yourself caught in detailed emotional analysis during social interactions, pause and ask, what might I be missing while focused on my own experience? What energies or dynamics in the room am I failing to perceive? How might others be experiencing this moment? These questions help expand awareness beyond the echo chamber of self-reflection. Recognizing the introspection trap marks the first crucial step in crossing the invisible bridge between emotional intelligence and social mastery. By understanding how your sophisticated emotional awareness might inadvertently limit your social perception, you open yourself to a broader range of experience and connection. Your finely tuned emotional radar, while invaluable for self-understanding, can become a barrier when it absorbs all your attention in social situations. Like a photographer so focused on adjusting their camera settings that they miss the perfect shot unfolding before them, your careful monitoring of internal states can blind you to the rich tapestry of social dynamics surrounding you. Breaking free requires not abandoning your emotional awareness, but expanding its scope to encompass both your inner landscape and the vibrant social world you inhabit. Chapter 2: The Invisible Conversation. Walking into a room mid-conversation creates an immediate sense of disorientation. Words float in the air, clearly audible yet strangely meaningless without their context. This universal experience perfectly captures what many emotionally intelligent people face in social situations, hearing all the words but missing the deeper currents of meaning flowing beneath them. This invisible conversation exists in every social interaction. It's the unspoken language of subtle glances, shifting energies, and relational dynamics that creates meaning far beyond the words exchanged. While your emotional intelligence gives you profound insight into your internal landscape, this hidden dimension of social exchange often remains just outside your perception. Think of social interaction like an iceberg. The visible portion, the words spoken, the obvious gestures, the surface level exchanges, represents only a fraction of the total communication occurring. Beneath the surface lies a vast network of meaning, the shared history between people, the cultural context shaping behavior, the collective emotional atmosphere, and the intricate dance of nonverbal signals. Your developed emotional intelligence has given you sophisticated tools for navigating your internal waters. You can identify emotional states with precision, track psychological patterns, and understand your reactions with remarkable clarity. But focusing solely on these internal measurements is like trying to navigate an ocean by studying only your own ship's instruments. The broader sea of social dynamics demands a different kind of awareness. This is where social sonar comes into play. Just as marine mammals use echolocation to build a complete picture of their underwater environment, humans have an innate capacity to sense the emotional and relational currents flowing through social spaces. This isn't a new skill to master, but a natural extension of your existing emotional awareness, shifting focus from internal monitoring to external resonance. The invisible conversation manifests through multiple channels simultaneously. Body language tells emotional stories that words often contradict. Relational histories create unseen contexts that color every interaction. Cultural norms establish unspoken rules that guide behavior. Group dynamics generate emotional atmospheres that influence everyone present. All these elements combine to create a rich social context that gives meaning to every word and gesture. Your frustration with seemingly inexplicable social dynamics likely stems from missing this crucial layer of communication. Despite understanding your own emotional responses perfectly, certain interactions may have left you feeling confused or disconnected. This disconnect occurs not because you lack social capability, but because your sophisticated emotional awareness has been directed primarily inward. The good news is that once you understand the existence of this invisible conversation, it becomes increasingly readable. Like developing night vision, it's not about straining to see but allowing your natural perceptive abilities to adapt to a different kind of light. This shift happens through curiosity rather than analysis, through opening your awareness to the broader field of social exchange rather than scrutinizing individual elements. The challenge many emotionally intelligent people face is the tendency to apply their analytical skills to social dynamics. But attempting to decode the invisible conversation through analysis often creates self-consciousness that blocks natural perception. Instead, this awareness emerges through presence, through allowing yourself to be part of the social field rather than observing it from outside. Understanding the invisible conversation transforms ordinary interactions. Whereas before, you might have focused on managing your internal state during a group discussion, you now sense the ebb and flow of collective energy. Rather than analyzing your emotional response to someone's words, You perceive the unspoken meanings carried in their tone and timing. Instead of struggling to plan your next response, you tune into the natural rhythm of exchange. This awareness naturally draws you out of the introspection trap explored in Chapter 1. When you recognize the rich complexity of social exchange happening around you, excessive self-focus naturally gives way to genuine curiosity about the shared field of communication. Your emotional intelligence becomes a gateway to social fluency rather than a barrier to connection. The very qualities you've developed through inner work, sensitivity, attunement, perceptiveness, now serve as bridges to others rather than walls around yourself. Your heightened awareness expands outward, allowing you to participate fully in the dynamic interplay of social energy without getting lost in self-analysis. What once felt like a series of calculated responses transforms into an organic dance of authentic engagement. Chapter 3. From Spotlight to Lighthouse. You know that moment when all eyes turn to you in a room. Your heart rate quickens, your thoughts become scattered, and suddenly you're hyper-aware of every gesture, every word choice, every micro-expression crossing your face. Despite your emotional intelligence, despite understanding exactly what's happening in your body and mind, that sensation of being under scrutiny can still feel overwhelming. This discomfort with social attention represents one of the most paradoxical aspects of emotional intelligence. You can name the physiological responses, identify the thoughts creating your anxiety, and even regulate your emotional state. Yet the fundamental experience of feeling exposed under others' attention remains unchanged. This disconnect occurs because the issue isn't about managing your response to attention, but about transforming your relationship with it entirely. Consider how attention functions in social settings. When you feel all eyes on you, it's as if a spotlight has suddenly illuminated every potential flaw, every possible misstep, every imaginable judgment. This spotlight mentality creates a peculiar form of self-consciousness, where you simultaneously become the performer and the harshest critic in your internal theater. The more aware you become of being seen, the less present you are with others, creating a self-perpetuating cycle of disconnection. Your emotional intelligence might help you cope with this spotlight sensation. You might prepare extensively before social situations, use sophisticated self-talk to manage anxiety, or develop strategies to deflect attention. While these approaches demonstrate admirable self-awareness, they work within the spotlight paradigm rather than transforming it. They accept the premise that attention is inherently evaluative and potentially threatening. But what if attention worked more like a lighthouse than a spotlight? A lighthouse doesn't receive scrutiny. It offers illumination. It doesn't perform. It serves. This subtle shift in perspective transforms social attention from something you endure to something you offer. From this vantage point, others' attention becomes an opportunity for connection rather than evaluation. The lighthouse perspective fundamentally alters your social experience without requiring you to change your behavior or master new techniques. When you're no longer trying to manage how you're being seen, you become free to actually see others. When you're no longer performing under scrutiny, you can be genuinely present. This shift dissolves the artificial separation between self and others that the spotlight mentality creates. You might resist this perspective shift, believing that the spotlight mentality protects you from potential judgment or social mishaps. This protection, however, comes at the cost of authentic connection. Like emotional armor, it may shield you from hurt, but also prevents you from feeling the warmth of genuine engagement. Notice throughout your day when you're operating from the spotlight mentality. You'll recognize it by the sensation of being observed rather than being present, by your focus on managing impressions rather than creating connection. Simply recognizing these moments begins to dissolve their power. You don't need to force yourself into a lighthouse perspective. Awareness itself initiates the transformation. This shift rarely happens all at once. The spotlight mentality likely developed over years as a protection against social judgment, and its roots run deep. Allow yourself to explore this new perspective gradually, noticing how moments of genuine presence feel compared to moments of self-conscious performance. Each recognition creates space for a new possibility. As your relationship with attention transforms, you'll find yourself naturally more attuned to the invisible conversation we explored in the previous chapter. When you're no longer consumed with managing how you're being seen, you become free to perceive the subtle currents of social dynamics flowing around you. Your emotional intelligence, previously focused inward on managing the spotlight's effects, becomes available for creating genuine resonance with others. This liberation opens up an entirely new dimension of social awareness, one where you notice not just what people say, but the energy they bring into a room, the unspoken needs beneath their words, the way conversations rise and fall like waves. Your heightened perception reveals layers of meaning that were always present but hidden behind the veil of self-consciousness. In this state of authentic presence, you'll discover that true connection doesn't require effort or performance. It emerges naturally when you allow yourself to fully inhabit the shared space of human interaction. The walls of self-consciousness dissolve, replaced by an expansive awareness that encompasses both your experience and the subtle dynamics unfolding around you. You become like water flowing into every corner of the social landscape, adapting effortlessly to each moment while maintaining your essential nature. This fluidity creates space for others to show up authentically too, as they unconsciously respond to your genuine presence with their own. Chapter 4. The Resonance Field. That moment of perfect synchronicity with another person transcends all the emotional intelligence techniques you've learned. Time seems to slow, barriers dissolve, and you find yourself in a state of effortless connection, where understanding flows naturally. These rare moments reveal a profound truth about human connection, that beyond all our sophisticated emotional awareness lies a deeper capacity for resonance that transforms individual feelings into shared experience. Many who excel at emotional intelligence focus intensely on managing their own emotional state or accurately reading others' feelings. This analytical approach, while valuable, often misses the essential nature of emotions as a contagious field that naturally connects us when we allow it. Like radio waves that invisibly fill the space between stations, emotional resonance exists as a medium of connection that we can tune into rather than a skill to master. Think of an orchestra in perfect harmony. Each instrument maintains its unique voice while contributing to something larger than itself. The music emerges not from each player focusing on their own part in isolation, but through a shared attunement that allows individual expressions to blend into a unified whole. This same principle applies to emotional resonance between people. This differs fundamentally from empathy as it's commonly understood. While empathy involves understanding another's emotions while maintaining separation, resonance creates a genuinely shared emotional field that transforms both parties. It's the difference between watching waves from the shore and entering the ocean itself, between intellectual understanding and lived experience. Resonance manifests through multiple channels simultaneously. At the physical level, people in resonance naturally synchronize their breathing, match each other's energy, and mirror subtle gestures without conscious effort. Their nervous systems enter a state of co-regulation, creating a tangible sense of connection beyond words. At the emotional level, resonance allows feelings to flow naturally between people, rather than being carefully managed or contained. This doesn't mean losing your emotional boundaries or absorbing others' negative states. Instead, it means entering a state of attunement where emotions serve their natural function as signals that connect rather than separate us. At the social level, resonance creates those magical moments of flow in conversation and connection that we can't manufacture through technique. When we stop trying to manage the interaction and instead allow ourselves to fully inhabit the shared space between us, we access an inherent capacity for connection that transcends social skills. Many emotionally intelligent people inadvertently block resonance through over-analysis and self-monitoring. By focusing intensely on reading and regulating their own emotions, they create an artificial separation that prevents natural attunement. The solution isn't adding more techniques, but shifting how we relate to emotions themselves, seeing them as a medium of connection rather than internal states to manage. This shift transforms interactions from performance into genuine connection. Rather than carefully monitoring your emotional state while analyzing others' reactions, you can enter a shared field of feeling where understanding flows naturally. This doesn't require dropping your emotional awareness, but rather expanding it to include the space between people. The fear of emotional contagion often leads people to maintain rigid boundaries that block resonance. Yet true resonance doesn't require absorbing others' emotions or losing your center. Like musicians in an orchestra, you can remain distinct while participating in something larger. The key is learning to trust your natural capacity for connection rather than trying to control it through technique. When you approach interactions through resonance rather than management, everything shifts. Conversations flow more naturally, understanding deepens, and connection becomes effortless rather than effortful. This doesn't require changing who you are or learning new skills. It simply means allowing your natural capacity for resonance to emerge. The lighthouse perspective we explored earlier creates the perfect conditions for resonance. When you shift from feeling observed to offering presence, you naturally attune to the shared field between people. This presence, combined with emotional resonance, forms the foundation for authentic connection that we'll explore in the next chapter. Your attention expands beyond self-consciousness into a spacious awareness that includes both yourself and others without strain or effort. You become like a tuning fork, naturally responding to the emotional vibrations around you while maintaining your own clear note. This isn't about trying harder or doing more. It's about allowing yourself to participate in the natural symphony of human connection that's already playing all around you. Chapter 5. The Authenticity Paradox. You've likely experienced that peculiar moment when trying to be yourself in a social situation actually makes you feel more artificial. The more you focus on appearing authentic, the more self-conscious and performative you become. This seemingly contradictory experience reveals a profound truth about authenticity. It cannot be achieved through effort or technique. This struggle reflects a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of authentic expression. Just as a river doesn't need instructions to flow naturally, your authentic self doesn't need techniques to emerge. The very attempt to consciously manage authenticity creates an internal split, an observing self monitoring a performing self, neither of which represents your natural state. Consider the difference between a river and a canal. A river finds its natural course by flowing around obstacles, carving its own path through the landscape. A canal, though efficiently designed, requires constant maintenance and artificial boundaries to function. Similarly, when you try to construct authentic behavior through conscious effort, you create an artificial channel that requires ongoing monitoring and adjustment. This authenticity paradox manifests in countless ways during social interactions. You carefully choose words to appear genuine, only to hear them sound rehearsed. You consciously adjust your body language to seem open, but feel stiff and unnatural. You try to express genuine interest, yet find yourself calculating the right moment to speak or respond. Each attempt to manage authenticity actually distances you further from natural expression. The path to genuine presence requires a fundamental shift in perspective. Rather than adding more authentic behaviors or refining your social performance, the key lies in removing the barriers that block your natural expression. These barriers often take the form of self-monitoring thoughts, social calculations, and attempts to control how others perceive you. Your authentic self isn't something you need to construct or perfect. It's your natural state when artificial constraints are removed. Like a river that flows freely once obstacles are cleared from its path. Your genuine presence emerges spontaneously when you release the need to manage it. This shift transforms social interaction from a performance to be mastered into a natural unfolding to be experienced. Without the burden of monitoring your authenticity, you become free to respond spontaneously to each moment. Without the pressure to manage others' perceptions, you can express yourself without second-guessing or self-censorship. Many resist this approach out of fear that their unfiltered self might lead to rejection or social mistakes. Yet paradoxically, authentic presence creates stronger connections than even the most polished performance. When you stop trying to manufacture connection through technique and instead allow your natural warmth to flow, you attract those who resonate with your genuine nature, while naturally filtering out those who don't. The shift from constructed to natural authenticity doesn't happen through learning new skills, but through unlearning habitual self-monitoring. It's about recognizing when you're caught in performance mode and gently releasing the need to manage your social presence. Each time you notice yourself trying to be authentic, that awareness itself begins to dissolve the artificial effort. This perspective transforms how you approach social situations. Rather than preparing the right responses or monitoring your impact, you can focus on removing the internal barriers that prevent natural expression. Rather than adding more authentic behaviors to your repertoire, you can practice releasing the filters and calculations that block spontaneous connection. The authenticity paradox reveals that presence is your natural state. Like water that inherently knows how to flow, you inherently know how to connect authentically when you stop obstructing your natural expression. This creates the foundation for a different kind of social fluency, one based not on accumulating techniques, but on removing obstacles to your natural warmth and expressiveness. As you release the need to manage authenticity, you'll find yourself naturally attuned to others in a way that no conscious technique could achieve. This creates the conditions for genuine resonance, where connection flows naturally without effort or manipulation. The very qualities you've been trying to cultivate, warmth, presence, genuine interest, emerge spontaneously when you stop trying to manufacture them. Your interactions transform from calculated exchanges into fluid conversations where thoughts and feelings move freely between you and others. The walls of self-consciousness dissolve, replaced by an effortless awareness that encompasses both your experience and the shared space of connection. In these moments, you discover that true social fluency isn't about doing more. It's about allowing what's already there to surface naturally. Chapter 6. The Empathy Bridge. You excel at identifying emotions in others. When someone expresses distress, you can immediately recognize their emotional state, categorize the type of distress, and even understand its likely causes. Yet something feels missing. A gap between recognizing their emotion and truly feeling it yourself. This disconnect is a common experience among emotionally intelligent people who have mastered the analytical aspects of empathy without bridging the deeper emotional divide. Think of empathy not as a skill to master, but as a bridge to build. Many approach empathy like skilled observers watching from a safe distance through sophisticated emotional binoculars. They can spot subtle emotional nuances and interpret complex emotional patterns, yet remain fundamentally separate from what they observe. This creates a peculiar paradox. The very sophistication of their emotional observation can actually reinforce the distance between observer and observed. True empathy functions more like a bridge than a telescope. A bridge allows genuine connection and movement in both directions. When you stand on a bridge, you're neither here nor there, but in a shared space between. This is the fundamental difference between cognitive empathy, understanding emotions from a distance, and emotional empathy, creating a shared emotional space where genuine connection can occur. Many emotionally intelligent people unconsciously maintain emotional distance, even while developing increasingly sophisticated ways of recognizing and categorizing others' emotions. They build higher observation towers rather than stronger bridges. This approach develops from understandable concerns: fear of being overwhelmed by others' emotions, desire to maintain objectivity, or belief that professional distance equals emotional wisdom. The analytical mind excels at creating categories, systems, and frameworks for understanding emotions. While valuable, this approach can paradoxically prevent the very connection it aims to create. When you're focused on analyzing someone's emotional state, you're maintaining the role of observer rather than participant in their emotional experience. This creates an invisible wall even as you develop greater insight into what lies on the other side. The transformation from observer to connector doesn't require learning new techniques or developing additional skills. Instead, it involves recognizing and releasing the unconscious barriers we maintain against genuine emotional connection. These barriers often masquerade as sophisticated emotional intelligence, the ability to analyze without being affected, to understand without being moved, to help without being touched. When you release the need to maintain emotional distance, authentic empathic bridges form naturally. This doesn't mean becoming overwhelmed by others' emotions or losing your own emotional center. Rather, it means allowing yourself to participate in a shared emotional field while maintaining your distinct identity within it. Like a bridge that connects two shores while being distinct from both. Empathic connection maintains individuality while creating genuine emotional resonance. This shift transforms social interactions at a fundamental level. Instead of merely understanding that someone feels anxious, you sense their anxiety as a tangible presence in the shared space between you. Rather than just recognizing someone's joy, you naturally participate in their emotional uplift. This creates a qualitatively different experience for both parties, moving from being understood to being truly felt. The fear of emotional overwhelm often prevents this deeper connection. Yet paradoxically, genuine empathy bridges actually create greater emotional resilience. When emotions are shared rather than observed from a distance, their impact is distributed rather than concentrated. Like a bridge that distributes weight across its entire structure, empathic connection allows emotional experiences to be supported by the strength of genuine relationship rather than carried in isolation. This perspective transforms empathy from a skill to develop into a natural capacity to unveil. You already possess the ability to form these empathic bridges. It's an innate human capability often covered by layers of analytical distance and emotional protection. As you recognize and release these barriers, authentic emotional connection emerges without effort or technique, much like how your eyes naturally focus when you remove a blindfold. Your empathic nature surfaces organically when you stop holding it back. The walls you've built to protect yourself, while serving an important purpose in the past, now simply obscure your view of the rich emotional landscape you share with others. Your analytical mind may resist this natural flow, preferring the safety of observation to the vulnerability of participation. Yet this resistance itself reveals your deep capacity for connection. You can only resist what already exists within you. Chapter 7. The Social Ecosystem. You've studied the mechanics of social interaction meticulously. Every book, every technique, every strategy for building rapport and creating connection. You can list the elements of active listening, decode body language signals, and demonstrate emotional intelligence in conversation. Yet despite this technical mastery, authentic connection remains mysteriously out of reach. It's as though you're following a perfect recipe, but the dish never quite tastes right. This disconnect isn't a failure of technique or dedication. Rather, it reveals a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of social dynamics themselves. We've been taught to approach social interaction like a machine. Input the right behaviors, follow the correct sequence, produce the desired outcome. But human connection doesn't operate by mechanical principles. It functions as a living ecosystem. Consider the difference between a factory and a garden. A factory operates through control. Specific inputs create predictable outputs through engineered processes. Each component serves a designated function, and success comes from optimizing these individual parts. But try applying this mechanical thinking to growing a garden, and you'll quickly discover its limitations. Gardens don't respond to control, they require nurturing. They evolve through complex interactions between countless living elements. They thrive not through optimization of parts, but through cultivation of the whole. This same principle applies to social dynamics. When we approach social interaction mechanically, trying to optimize our behaviors, control outcomes, and engineer connections, we create the very disconnect we're trying to overcome. Living systems resist manipulation. They respond instead to presence, authenticity, and attunement to natural rhythms. In a social ecosystem, every interaction influences the whole. Just as changing soil chemistry affects not just individual plants, but the entire garden's balance, your presence in any social space creates ripples that extend far beyond immediate exchanges. This interconnected nature explains why focusing solely on individual techniques often feels artificial. It's like trying to grow a single flower while ignoring the health of the entire garden. The ecosystem perspective transforms how we understand social dynamics. Instead of seeing interactions as transactions to manage, we recognize them as living connections to nurture. Rather than trying to produce specific outcomes, we focus on creating conditions where authentic connection can naturally emerge. Our role shifts from social engineer to social gardener, cultivating spaces where relationships can grow organically. This shift resolves many common social challenges. The pressure to perform socially dissolves when we stop trying to control outcomes and instead attune to the natural flow of interaction. Social anxiety diminishes when we move from managing impressions to simply being present in the ecosystem. Even difficult relationships become more navigable when we approach them as complex living systems rather than problems to solve. Your emotional intelligence takes on new meaning within this ecological framework. Instead of using it to analyze and manage social dynamics, it becomes your sensitivity to the ecosystem's subtle currents. Your awareness serves not to control, but to attune, helping you respond organically to the living fabric of human connection. The ecosystem perspective also explains why authentic presence proves more powerful than perfect technique. In a mechanical model, precision of execution determines success. But in a living system, authenticity functions like sunlight, providing essential nourishment that allows natural growth and connection to flourish. Your genuine presence, even with imperfect technique, contributes more to the ecosystem's health than flawless performance without authentic engagement. This understanding transforms social mastery from a technical challenge to an organic unfolding. Rather than accumulating more techniques, focus on removing what blocks your natural participation in the social ecosystem. Instead of trying to optimize individual interactions, nurture the conditions that allow authentic connection to emerge naturally. The shift to ecological thinking aligns with our deepest intuitions about human connection. We know instinctively that meaningful relationships can't be manufactured, they must be grown. By approaching social dynamics as a living ecosystem rather than a machine, we create space for this natural growth to occur. Your social world transforms when you stop trying to assemble it piece by piece and start nurturing it like a garden. Each interaction becomes an opportunity not to execute a strategy, but to plant a seed, to provide nourishment, to clear away what blocks natural growth. This perspective liberates you from the exhausting effort of trying to control outcomes and allows you to participate in the organic unfolding of authentic connection. The ecosystem metaphor reveals a profound truth, that social mastery isn't about perfecting your performance, but about contributing to the health of the whole system through your genuine presence. Chapter 8. The Attention Currency. Watch people in any social setting and you'll notice a fascinating pattern. Some individuals naturally draw others in, creating magnetic fields of engagement without apparent effort. This magnetism doesn't stem from extroversion, status, or even charisma in the traditional sense. Instead, it flows from a more fundamental source, the quality of attention they offer to others and their surroundings. Attention functions as the essential currency in all social exchanges. Like any currency, it can be invested wisely or squandered, given generously or withheld, used to enrich connections or depleted through careless spending. Yet unlike material wealth, the value of attention lies not in its quantity, but in its quality. Think of attention as water flowing through the social ecosystem. Just as plants require clean, nourishing water rather than simply more water, human connections thrive on quality attention rather than mere visibility or focus. A moment of genuine presence creates more impact than hours of divided attention. A single instance of deep listening fosters more connection than endless streams of distracted conversation. Many emotionally intelligent people focus intensely on managing how others perceive them, while overlooking how their own attention shapes these perceptions. They develop sophisticated strategies for being seen and heard without recognizing that the quality of attention they offer others largely determines how their presence is received. This dynamic plays out in countless ways. In conversations, scattered attention creates subtle disconnection, even when we're saying all the right things. Evaluative attention, where we listen through the filter of judgment or analysis, creates defensive responses even when our insights are accurate. Agenda-driven attention, where we engage with others primarily to achieve specific outcomes, generates resistance even when our goals align with others' interests. Conversely, present attention, where we engage with genuine curiosity and openness, naturally draws others into deeper connection. This quality of attention functions like clear water flowing through the social ecosystem, nourishing authentic engagement and mutual understanding. You can observe this principle in any social setting. Notice how people naturally gravitate toward those who offer them genuine attention. Watch how conversations deepen when someone shifts from partial to full presence. See how relationships transform when evaluative attention gives way to genuine interest. The impact of attention quality extends beyond individual interactions to shape entire social spaces. Like water flowing through soil, the quality of attention we offer permeates our social environment, influencing not just direct exchanges, but the overall atmosphere of connection. One person's genuine presence can shift the energy of an entire room. This understanding transforms how we approach social engagement. Rather than focusing on being more visible or commanding more attention, we recognize that offering quality attention naturally creates the connection we seek. Instead of trying to optimize our social performance, we focus on removing what prevents us from being fully present. Modern life presents unique challenges to attention quality. Technology has normalized divided attention to such an extent that partial presence feels normal. Social media trains us to view attention as a commodity to capture rather than a gift to offer. The pace of contemporary existence often prioritizes quantity over quality in our exchanges. Yet even within these challenges, the fundamental principle holds. Quality attention creates quality connection. A few moments of genuine presence impact relationships more powerfully than extended periods of partial engagement. Brief exchanges infused with real interest foster deeper understanding than lengthy interactions filled with distracted listening. The most powerful shift occurs when we recognize attention not as a limited resource to manage, but as a renewable source of connection to cultivate. Like water in a healthy ecosystem, attention flows most effectively when we remove blockages rather than force its direction. When we clear away internal distractions, our self-consciousness, our agenda, our need to control outcomes, quality attention emerges naturally. This quality of attention transforms not just how others respond to us, but how we experience social connection ourselves. When we shift from managing our visibility to offering genuine presence, we discover that the attention we seek often arises naturally through the attention we give. The currency of attention, unlike material wealth, multiplies through genuine sharing rather than careful hoarding. The ecosystem's metaphor reveals another crucial insight. Just as water quality affects entire environments, the attention we offer shapes not just individual connections, but our entire social landscape. Each interaction where we offer quality attention contributes to a broader culture of authentic engagement, creating ripple effects far beyond the immediate exchange. Chapter 9. The Emotional Ecosystem. In every social space, an invisible yet palpable force shapes our experience before a single word is spoken. You felt it countless times, walking into a room and immediately sensing tension hanging thick in the air, or entering a gathering where joy seems to sparkle like electricity. This immediate awareness of the emotional atmosphere isn't mystical or mysterious. It's a natural recognition of how emotions function as a shared field that influences everyone present. Think of emotions not as isolated internal experiences, but as weather patterns moving through social ecosystems. Just as weather systems shape the environment they pass through, Emotional currents transform the social spaces they inhabit. A wave of anxiety can sweep through an office like a storm front, while enthusiasm can spread through a group like warming sunshine. This perspective reveals why even the most sophisticated emotional self-regulation sometimes falls short in social situations. You might maintain perfect control of your internal emotional state, yet still find yourself influenced by the collective emotional climate around you. That's because emotions aren't contained within individual boundaries. They flow between people, creating patterns and dynamics that affect everyone in their path. Your emotional presence impacts others regardless of your intentions or conscious awareness. When you enter a space carrying tension, that tension ripples outward, influencing the emotional ecosystem even if you never speak of it. Similarly, when you bring genuine warmth and openness, that quality naturally influences the emotional temperature of the environment. Understanding emotional weather patterns transforms how we approach social dynamics. Instead of trying to control or manage emotions, yours or others, you can learn to read these currents and respond with awareness. This isn't about manipulation or performance. It's about conscious participation in the emotional ecosystem we all share. Many emotionally intelligent people excel at identifying and managing their personal feelings while missing this broader perspective. They're like meteorologists focused on a single location, rather than understanding the larger weather systems moving through the region. This limited view can leave you feeling confused when your carefully maintained emotional state seems ineffective in shifting group dynamics. The key lies in recognizing that you're always participating in these emotional weather patterns, whether consciously or unconsciously. Every emotional state you carry becomes part of the larger ecosystem. This understanding shifts the focus from controlling emotions to engaging wisely with these natural currents. Rather than absorbing others' emotions unconsciously or attempting to wall yourself off from emotional contagion, you can develop a balanced awareness that allows you to engage with emotional currents while maintaining your center. This isn't about becoming more emotionally controlled. It's about becoming more emotionally aware and responsive to the larger field. When you understand emotions as weather patterns, you stop taking emotional atmospheres personally. A tense room isn't a reflection of your social skills any more than a rainy day is a reflection of your mood. This perspective frees you to respond more effectively, working with emotional currents rather than against them. Your emotional sensitivity, which may have sometimes felt like a liability, becomes an asset when viewed through this lens. The same awareness that makes you sensitive to emotional atmospheres can help you navigate them more skillfully, not by trying to control the weather, but by understanding how to work with the patterns as they emerge. This shift in perspective naturally transforms social interactions. Rather than focusing solely on managing your internal state or reading others' emotions, you begin to sense and respond to the broader emotional ecosystem. This awareness allows you to contribute more effectively to creating healthy emotional climates without becoming overwhelmed or detached. You begin to recognize how emotional patterns in relationships and groups develop their own self-sustaining dynamics. Like weather systems that create specific microclimates, emotional patterns can become self-reinforcing unless consciously shifted. This understanding opens new possibilities for transforming challenging dynamics, not through force or control, but through wise participation in the emotional ecosystem. The quality of attention you bring to emotional weather patterns determines your ability to navigate them effectively. Just as meteorologists need clear instruments to read weather patterns accurately, your presence and awareness become the instruments through which you read and respond to emotional currents. When your attention remains sharp and unclouded, you naturally discern the subtle shifts in emotional atmosphere, the gathering tensions, the breaks of warmth, the approaching storms. This clarity allows you to move with, rather than against these currents, responding with wisdom rather than reaction. Your heightened awareness becomes both compass and shelter, helping you chart a course through turbulent emotional weather while maintaining your own stable center. Chapter 10. From Performance to Presence. You know that wave of relief when someone cancels plans, that instant release of tension when you realize you can stop being on. In that moment of canceled social obligations, you experience the lifting of an invisible weight you've been carrying, the constant effort of monitoring, adjusting, and evaluating your social performance. This exhaustion isn't from the interactions themselves, but from maintaining the performance mindset that turns every social encounter into an evaluation. You've developed sophisticated awareness of your emotional states. Yet this very sophistication can transform into a microscope turned perpetually inward, analyzing every social moment for signs of success or failure. The fundamental shift from performance to presence isn't about learning new social skills. It's about releasing the habits that prevent natural connection. Like a dancer who must move beyond technical precision to truly embody the music, social fluency emerges when you stop treating each interaction as a performance to be critiqued and start experiencing it as a moment to be fully lived. The performance mindset creates an artificial division within yourself, the performer who engages in social interaction, and the inner critic who monitors and evaluates that performance. This internal split distances you from authentic connection, as part of your attention remains reserved for self-evaluation rather than genuine engagement. This division extends beyond individual moments, creating a fundamental separation between social and private modes of being. In social settings, you shift into performance mode, maintaining heightened awareness of your behavior, monitoring others' responses, and adjusting your presentation accordingly. In private, you finally relax into natural expression, only to start the performance again when others appear. Yet your most meaningful connections often occur in those rare moments when you forget to perform, when something bypasses your social monitoring system and you respond with natural authenticity. These glimpses reveal that genuine connection doesn't require more sophisticated performance, but rather the courage to be present without management or evaluation. The shift from performance to presence transforms social interaction from something you achieve to something you experience. Rather than calculating your responses or monitoring your impact, you bring your full attention to the moment itself. This presence creates a field of authenticity that naturally draws others into genuine connection. Consider how performance orientation shapes your social experience, the mental rehearsal before interactions, the running commentary during conversations, the post-interaction analysis of what you could have done differently. Now imagine releasing this entire framework, not through effort or technique, but by recognizing it as an unnecessary layer between you and natural connection. This recognition begins to dissolve the performance mindset, revealing how social fluency emerges naturally when we stop trying to manage it. Like water flowing around obstacles, authentic connection occurs spontaneously when we remove the barriers of self-consciousness and evaluation. The deepest irony of social performance is that it prevents the very connection it aims to create. By positioning yourself as a performer to be evaluated rather than a presence to be experienced, you create artificial separation between yourself and others. This separation generates the very anxiety and disconnection that drives the performance mindset. creating a self-perpetuating cycle. Yet presence is not something to achieve. It's your natural state when the habit of performance falls away. Just as water naturally flows when obstacles are removed, genuine connection emerges naturally when you release the need to monitor and manage your social impact. The moment you stop trying to orchestrate the perfect social performance is the moment your authentic presence begins to shine through. Your natural warmth, curiosity, and empathy, qualities that have always existed within you, find their fullest expression when freed from the constraints of self-conscious management. This isn't about becoming someone new, but about allowing who you already are to emerge unfiltered and unforced. Like a flower that blooms without effort in the right conditions, your genuine nature unfolds naturally when you release the grip of social perfectionism. The very qualities others find most magnetic, your unique perspective, your subtle humor, your capacity for deep listening, emerge effortlessly when you trust in their inherent existence rather than trying to manufacture them. In releasing the need to curate every aspect of your social presence, you create space for the most compelling version of yourself to surface organically. Chapter 11. The Perception Gap. The perception gap represents one of the most challenging paradoxes in human connection. You can possess profound emotional intelligence, communicate with clarity, and maintain complete authenticity, yet still find yourself fundamentally misunderstood by others. This disconnect occurs not because of any failure in your self-awareness or expression, but because of an inevitable reality of human experience. We all view the same situation from different vantage points. Imagine standing atop one mountain while others observe from different peaks. The landscape below remains constant, but each perspective reveals and conceals different aspects of the terrain. Your view includes valleys hidden from others' sight, while they see slopes invisible from your position. Neither perspective is wrong. They're simply different windows into the same reality. This same dynamic plays out in every social interaction. Your self-perception includes your intentions, your internal emotional landscape, your personal history, and the rich context behind your words and actions. Yet others can only perceive what's externally visible, your behaviors, expressions, and impact on the shared space. They view you through the lens of their own experiences, assumptions, and emotional filters. The challenge deepens when we consider how emotional intelligence can sometimes widen this perception gap rather than bridge it. When you develop sophisticated awareness of your internal state, it becomes even more surprising and frustrating when others don't see or understand what feels crystal clear to you. Your increased ability to articulate your emotions and intentions can actually create a stronger expectation that others should understand you completely. However, this perception gap isn't a problem to solve, but a fundamental aspect of human interaction to navigate with wisdom. Just as mountain peaks will always offer different views of the same landscape, people will always perceive each other through their unique psychological and emotional filters. The goal isn't to eliminate these differences, but to develop the flexibility to move between perspectives while maintaining authentic presence. This requires a profound shift from trying to control how others perceive you to cultivating awareness of how perspective shapes perception. Rather than attempting to make others see exactly what you see, you can learn to recognize how the same situation might appear from different vantage points. This doesn't mean abandoning your truth or perspective. Rather, it means holding it alongside the understanding that others' perspectives are equally valid within their frame of reference. The perception gap manifests most notably in the space between intention and impact. You might intend to show care through detailed questions about someone's situation while they experience it as intrusive. You might aim to demonstrate respect by maintaining professional distance while others perceive coldness. These mismatches don't indicate failure but reveal the natural complexity of human perception. What makes this especially challenging for emotionally intelligent people is the temptation to solve the perception gap through ever more precise communication or deeper self-awareness. But this approach often backfires, creating more self-consciousness without necessarily improving understanding. The key lies not in perfecting your self-expression, but in embracing the multiplicity of valid perspectives that exist in any interaction. This shift transforms how you approach misunderstandings. Instead of defending your perspective or trying to correct others' perceptions, you can become curious about how the same situation appears from their vantage point. This curiosity itself often creates more connection than any attempt to control or correct perceptions. The perception gap reminds us that social mastery isn't about achieving perfect understanding, but about maintaining authentic presence while navigating different perspectives. It's about developing the flexibility to move between viewpoints without losing your center, and the wisdom to recognize that misunderstandings aren't failures, but opportunities for deeper connection through acknowledging our different ways of seeing. When you release the expectation that others should see you exactly as you see yourself, you create space for more genuine connection. This doesn't mean accepting every misperception, but rather approaching differences in perspective with curiosity rather than resistance. The very acknowledgement that others might see things differently often opens the door to deeper understanding. You might find that the gap between perceptions becomes a bridge rather than a barrier, a space where mutual exploration leads to richer insights than either perspective could achieve alone. In those moments when someone's view of you differs from your self-image, you have a choice. You can fight against their perception, or you can lean into the fascinating mystery of how two people can experience the same reality so differently. This openness to multiple viewpoints doesn't diminish your truth. It enriches it, adding depth and dimension to your understanding of yourself and others. Chapter 12. The Invitation Space. You've likely experienced both sides of social connection. The strained, uncomfortable feeling of someone pushing too hard for your attention, and the natural draw towards someone who simply creates a welcoming space for authentic interaction. This fundamental difference reveals a crucial insight about social mastery. True connection emerges not from pursuit, but from invitation. When you chase connection, you create resistance. Even with the best intentions, pursuing others activates their natural instinct to pull away. Like a host who constantly hovers over guests, asking if they're enjoying themselves. The very effort to ensure connection often prevents it from forming naturally. Consider instead the quality of invitation. A skillful host creates a welcoming environment and then allows guests to engage at their own pace. They ensure comfort and accessibility while respecting autonomy. This invitational presence has a magnetic quality that naturally draws others in, without force or manipulation. The distinction lies in the energetic quality you bring to interactions. Pursuit carries an underlying current of need or demand. It seeks to obtain something from others, whether attention, validation, or connection itself. Invitation, by contrast, offers something valuable while respecting others' freedom to engage or not. This invitational quality manifests in subtle ways. It shows up in how you hold conversations, creating space for others to contribute rather than filling every silence. It appears in how you share perspectives, offering insights as possibilities to consider rather than truths to accept. It emerges in how you handle disagreement, maintaining openness to different viewpoints rather than pushing for agreement. The power of invitation lies in its respect for autonomy. When you pursue, you inadvertently communicate that others' boundaries and preferences matter less than your desire for connection. When you invite, you demonstrate trust in others' capacity to choose connections freely. This respect paradoxically makes connection more likely, not less. Many emotionally intelligent people struggle with this distinction because they have developed sophisticated ways of pursuing connection skillfully. They may excel at reading others' signals, adapting their approach, and managing the interaction, yet still find themselves working too hard for connections that remain unfulfilling. The shift from pursuit to invitation requires a fundamental change in perspective. Rather than seeing connection as something to achieve through effort, you recognize it as something that emerges naturally when the right conditions are present. Your role becomes creating those conditions rather than forcing outcomes. This shift often triggers anxiety. If you stop pursuing connection, won't you end up alone? Yet experience shows the opposite. When you create genuinely inviting spaces, people naturally gravitate toward them. Like a garden that attracts butterflies by providing flowers rather than trying to catch them in nets, invitational presence draws others through its inherent attractiveness. Creating invitational spaces requires security rather than need. When you're coming from a place of lack, feeling that you need others' attention or validation to be complete, you'll naturally fall into pursuit. When you recognize your inherent wholeness while maintaining genuine openness to connection, invitation flows naturally. This security allows you to hold space for others without attachment to outcomes. You can extend genuine welcome while remaining completely at peace with others' choices to engage or not. This paradoxically makes you more magnetic, as others sense they can connect with you without being trapped or obligated. Think of invitation as creating a clearing in the forest of social interaction. You remove obstacles, create accessibility, and maintain openness. But you don't drag others into the space. You trust that those who resonate with what you're offering will naturally find their way there. The distinction between pursuit and invitation becomes particularly clear in challenging situations. When someone pulls away, pursuit leads to increased pressure that usually backfires. Invitation maintains welcoming openness while respecting the other's need for space. This often allows connection to naturally repair itself over time. In those moments when distance grows between you and another, your instinctive response might be to close that gap through active pursuit, reaching out repeatedly, seeking explanations, trying to resolve things immediately. But this urgency typically creates resistance, making the other person feel cornered rather than understood. The beauty of invitation lies in its patient strength. You remain available without demanding, present without imposing. Your openness becomes a safe harbor they can return to when ready, not a net trying to catch them. This subtle shift transforms what could become a painful cycle of pursuit and withdrawal into an opportunity for natural reconnection. Chapter 13. Emotional Leadership. You've mastered your emotional landscape, the ability to navigate your feelings with precision and clarity. Yet in group settings, you may notice a peculiar disconnect. Despite your emotional intelligence, shifting the collective mood of a team meeting, family gathering, or social circle remains challenging. This gap reveals a crucial distinction between emotional intelligence and emotional leadership. Emotional leadership transcends personal emotional management. It's the art of shaping collective emotional experiences through authentic presence rather than control. Like a conductor who transforms individual musicians into a unified orchestra, emotional leadership creates harmony without playing a single instrument. Your emotional presence creates ripples through social spaces, whether you're conscious of it or not. Every interaction carries an emotional tone that influences others, even when no words are exchanged. This influence isn't about manipulation or forced change. It's about offering emotional possibilities that others can naturally align with. Consider how certain individuals seem to naturally lift the energy of a room or calm heightened tensions. They don't achieve this through techniques or deliberate intervention. Instead, their emotional presence creates an invitational field that others naturally respond to. This is emotional leadership in its purest form. The power of emotional leadership lies in its authenticity. When you embody genuine emotional qualities, whether calm during chaos, warmth during disconnection, or lightness during heaviness, you create permission for others to access those same qualities within themselves. This isn't about performing emotions, but about allowing your authentic emotional expression to create possibilities for others. Many emotionally intelligent people hesitate to embrace their leadership capacity, fearing they might manipulate others' feelings. Yet true emotional leadership differs fundamentally from manipulation. Manipulation seeks to control others' emotional states for personal gain. Leadership, by contrast, offers emotional possibilities while fully respecting others' autonomy to engage or not. Your emotional presence shapes group dynamics more than you might realize. In team settings, your calm presence during stress creates space for others to find their own equilibrium. In family dynamics, your authentic joy can lift collective spirits without forcing cheerfulness. In social circles, your genuine warmth can thaw interpersonal tensions without direct intervention. This influence flows naturally when you shift focus from managing emotions to embodying qualities. Rather than trying to make others feel certain ways, you simply express authentic emotional states that align with what you wish to cultivate. Like a lighthouse offering guidance through presence rather than control, your emotional authenticity creates reference points that others can navigate by. The art of emotional leadership involves recognizing the difference between pushing and offering. When you push for emotional changes in others, you create resistance. When you offer emotional possibilities through your presence, you allow others to naturally align with qualities that resonate with them. Your capacity for emotional leadership expands as you release the need to produce specific outcomes. Paradoxically, your influence grows stronger when you focus on authentic expression rather than deliberate impact. This creates the conditions for genuine emotional resonance rather than superficial compliance. The visceral quality of your emotional presence matters more than your words or actions. Others sense the authenticity of your emotional expression, responding more to how genuinely you embody certain qualities than to any conscious attempts to influence them. This authentic embodiment becomes particularly powerful in challenging situations, where your steady presence can help ground collective emotional experiences. Through emotional leadership, you discover that influence flows naturally when you stop trying to create it. By simply being authentic in your emotional expression while maintaining openness to others' experiences, you create the conditions for genuine emotional transformation in groups and relationships. This leadership emerges not from what you do, but from who you're being in each moment. Your presence becomes a catalyst, not because you're attempting to change anyone, but because you embody emotional truth without agenda or manipulation. Others respond to this authentic core within you, drawn to the quiet strength that comes from deep self-acceptance and genuine presence. In this space of unforced leadership, transformation unfolds organically, like a flower opening to sunlight rather than being pried open by force. The paradox becomes clear. The moment you release the need to lead is precisely when your capacity for true leadership blossoms. Your emotional honesty creates a field of permission around you, inviting others to step into their own authenticity without fear of judgment or pressure to perform. This natural influence ripples outward, touching lives in ways that deliberate attempts at leadership never could. Chapter 14. The Authentic Influence. Throughout your journey developing emotional intelligence, you've likely encountered countless techniques for influencing others, strategies for persuasion, frameworks for gaining buy-in, methods for moving people toward desired outcomes. Yet you may have noticed that even when these techniques work, something feels misaligned. The success feels hollow, the connection artificial, the impact temporary. This disconnect points to a profound truth about human interaction. Authentic influence operates fundamentally differently from strategic persuasion. When you attempt to influence through technique, you create an inherent separation, a division between the influencer and the influenced. This dynamic subtly signals manipulation, triggering natural resistance even when the techniques appear successful on the surface. Consider how water shapes landscapes. It doesn't push or persuade, it simply flows consistently, and through its presence, transforms everything it touches. This natural influence comes not from force, but from authentic expression of its essential nature. In the same way, your most profound impact comes not from what you do, but from who you are. When you embody your values and convictions fully, you create waves of influence without deliberate effort. Your authentic presence becomes like water flowing through the social landscape, naturally shaping the terrain through consistent expression rather than strategic pressure. This influence emerges organically because it aligns with fundamental human nature. We are naturally drawn to authenticity and naturally resist manipulation. The paradox of influence reveals itself here. The more you try to deliberately influence others, the more you create subtle resistance. Yet when you release the need to influence and simply embody your values fully, your impact often expands exponentially. This isn't because you've discovered a more clever technique. It's because you've aligned with a deeper principle of human connection. Your emotional intelligence has given you sophisticated tools for understanding and managing influence dynamics. Yet true influence transcends tools and techniques. It flows from the courage to be authentically present, to stand firmly in your values without pushing them onto others, to trust that genuine conviction naturally attracts alignment more powerfully than any persuasive strategy. When you shift from tactical influence to embodied presence, you transform the fundamental dynamic of your interactions. Rather than creating pressure that triggers resistance, you create space that invites engagement. Rather than pushing an agenda that others must accept or reject, you offer a genuine expression that others can naturally resonate with. This shift requires trust. Trust that your authentic presence is more powerful than your strategic efforts. It requires releasing the illusion of control that tactical approaches promise. Yet this release paradoxically creates more profound and sustainable influence than any technique could achieve. Your desire to create a positive impact is valid and valuable, yet the path to meaningful influence may be different than you've been taught. Instead of accumulating more techniques, consider how you might more fully embody your values. Instead of focusing on how to influence others, explore how to express yourself more authentically. The resistance you may feel to this approach is natural. In a world that emphasizes tactical effectiveness, trusting in authentic presence can feel vulnerable. You might worry that releasing strategic control will diminish your impact. Yet your own responses to others shift dramatically when you sense genuine conviction versus calculated persuasion. The same dynamic operates in others' responses to you. Deep down, you recognize this truth. When someone speaks from authentic alignment rather than strategic positioning, their words carry a weight that no technique can replicate. Their presence creates an opening, an invitation to genuine connection that transcends the typical push-pull of social dynamics. This isn't about abandoning discernment or walking blindly into every situation. It's about recognizing that your carefully constructed strategies often create the very resistance they aim to overcome. When you approach interactions with an agenda, others instinctively sense it and raise their defenses. Your tactical mindset becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you try to manage outcomes, the more elusive authentic connection becomes. Like trying to grasp water tightly in your palm, the harder you squeeze, the more it slips away. Chapter 15: The Connection Paradox. You've experienced it, that painful irony where your deepest longing for connection seems to push it further away. The more intensely you seek meaningful relationships, the more they appear to slip through your fingers. This phenomenon isn't a personal failing or lack of social skill. It's a fundamental paradox of human connection that affects even the most emotionally intelligent among us. The connection paradox reveals itself in countless ways. You carefully craft the perfect message to a potential friend, only to find the resulting interaction feels stilted and forced. You enter social situations with the best intentions to form deep bonds, yet leave feeling more isolated than before. You work diligently to create the conditions for intimacy, only to sense others pulling away from what feels like pressure. This dynamic mirrors the futility of trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter you squeeze, the more it escapes through your fingers. Yet open your palm, and water can rest there naturally, reflecting light, available for genuine interaction without constraint. This same principle applies to human connection. The more we try to grasp and control it, the more elusive it becomes. The desperation for connection creates subtle but powerful undercurrents in our interactions. When we approach relationships with an agenda, even one as seemingly positive as creating meaningful connection, we inadvertently transform human interaction into a transaction. Others sense this underlying need, triggering an instinctive withdrawal even if they can't articulate why. Our attachment to specific outcomes, how a conversation should flow, how quickly a friendship should develop, what genuine connection should look like, blinds us to the authentic connection available in the present moment. We become so focused on achieving our ideal of connection that we miss the real opportunities for relating that naturally arise. The fear of disconnection itself becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When we interact from a place of fear, fear of rejection, fear of inadequacy, fear of remaining alone, we create precisely the distance we're trying to bridge. Our attempts to prevent disconnection through control, performance, or manipulation actually ensure it. The alternative is what we might call engaged detachment, a stance of full presence and authentic expression while releasing attachment to outcomes. This isn't about becoming passive or indifferent. Rather, it's about remaining deeply engaged in the moment while letting go of how that moment should unfold. This release transforms social interaction from a series of calculated moves into a natural flow. When we stop trying to make connection happen and instead allow it to emerge organically, we create the very conditions that foster genuine relating. Our presence becomes an invitation rather than a demand. The shift from grasping to allowing doesn't mean settling for less meaningful connection. Paradoxically, when we release our desperate grip on the need for specific relational outcomes, We create space for deeper and more authentic connection than our careful orchestration could ever achieve. Like the open palm that can actually engage with water rather than futilely trying to possess it, we become available for real interaction rather than just the appearance of it. This release requires trust in the natural unfolding of human connection, trust in our inherent capacity to relate, trust in the present moment's sufficiency. When we operate from this trust rather than from fear or need, we transform from connection seekers into connection artists, flowing with the natural rhythms of human relating rather than trying to force them into our preferred patterns. The path forward isn't about developing new strategies for creating connection, but about releasing our counterproductive attempt to control it. As we let go of our grip on specific outcomes, we paradoxically become more available for the very connection we've been seeking. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to practice this release, to show up fully while letting go of how things should unfold. In this release, we discover that genuine connection isn't something we achieve through effort, but something we allow through presence. This approach transforms social interaction from a series of controlled attempts at connection into an organic unfolding of authentic relating. When we stop trying to make connection happen and instead allow it to emerge naturally, we create the very conditions that foster genuine human bonds. You'll find that meaningful connections arise most effortlessly in moments when you've released your grip on the outcome. Like a delicate butterfly that lands only when you remain still, true connection emerges in the space of receptivity rather than pursuit. The magic lies not in perfecting your approach, but in creating an environment where connection can bloom on its own terms, free from the constraints of expectation or demand. Chapter 16. The Vulnerability Strength. You see it in yourself and others. That moment of hesitation before sharing something personal. The quick mental calculation of risks and potential responses. The subtle tension between knowing vulnerability creates connection and fearing its consequences. This instinctive protection feels natural, even necessary. Yet something in you recognizes how these very defenses might be preventing the depth of connection you seek. Consider how often you've caught yourself editing your authentic expression, carefully curating what you share to create a specific impression. Perhaps you've noticed how these calculated disclosures, while seemingly safer, often leave you feeling more disconnected than before. The vulnerability paradox reveals itself. The more strategically we approach openness, the less genuine connection we create. Imagine two spaces, a fortress and a garden with an open gate. The fortress appears to offer protection, its high walls keeping potential threats at bay. But these same walls that keep danger out also prevent connection, beauty, and growth from flowing in. The garden, while more exposed, creates an inviting space where authentic connection naturally flourishes. Its openness allows for natural cycles of growth and transformation, attracting others through its genuine beauty rather than its defenses. This distinction illuminates the fundamental difference between strategic and authentic vulnerability. Strategic vulnerability operates like a fortress with carefully controlled access points. We decide what to share based on calculated outcomes, managing impressions through selective disclosure. While this approach appears safer, others unconsciously sense its underlying manipulation, creating subtle resistance to genuine connection. Authentic vulnerability, however, functions like that open garden. It emerges not from a place of insecurity seeking validation, but from inner security that allows natural expression. This security comes from knowing we can handle whatever response we receive, freeing us from the need to control others' perceptions. When vulnerability flows from this place, it creates a resonance that naturally invites others into similar authenticity. The power of genuine vulnerability lies not in what we choose to share, but in our willingness to be seen as we are in each moment. This might manifest as expressing uncertainty when we don't know something, acknowledging when we're affected by someone's words, or simply allowing our genuine enthusiasm or concern to show without diluting it through social filters. True vulnerability carries no agenda. It doesn't seek to create a specific impression or elicit a particular response. Instead, it emerges from releasing the need to manage others' perceptions, allowing our authentic presence to express itself naturally. This creates a fundamentally different quality of connection than performative vulnerability, which subtly manipulates through strategic disclosure. Many fear that such openness leaves them exposed to rejection or judgment. Yet authentic vulnerability actually creates more safety than our protective strategies. By allowing ourselves to be seen clearly, we attract those who appreciate our genuine nature while naturally releasing connections that require performance to maintain. This alignment creates relationships built on authentic resonance rather than managed impressions. The path to authentic vulnerability doesn't involve forcing yourself to share more or pushing through discomfort to prove your openness. Instead, it emerges naturally as you release the habits of self-protection that no longer serve you. Each time you notice yourself calculating what to share or managing others' perceptions, this awareness itself begins to dissolve these patterns, allowing your natural authenticity to emerge. When vulnerability flows from authenticity rather than strategy, it transforms from a social risk to be managed into a natural expression of secure presence. This shift fundamentally changes how others respond to your openness. Rather than creating discomfort or withdrawal, authentic vulnerability creates a field of trust that allows genuine connection to flourish. The journey toward authentic vulnerability begins with recognizing how often we subvert genuine expression through strategic calculation. Notice when you're crafting your words to create a specific impression, when you're holding back your natural response to maintain control, when you're sharing past difficulties to achieve a particular effect. This awareness itself starts to dissolve these patterns, allowing your natural authenticity to emerge. The more you observe these subtle manipulations, the more you see how they create an invisible barrier between you and others. Your calculated responses might win approval or avoid discomfort in the moment, but they prevent the deeper connection you truly seek. Each time you catch yourself performing rather than being present, you gain the opportunity to choose differently, not by forcing yourself to be more open, but by simply releasing the impulse to manage every interaction. Your authentic self naturally rises to the surface when you stop trying to control how others perceive you. Chapter 17. The Charisma Myth. You've seen it countless times. Those individuals who seem to possess an almost magical ability to draw others in, to command attention without demanding it, to create instant connection through their mere presence. Perhaps you found yourself believing that this quality, this elusive thing called charisma, must be something they were born with, a genetic gift that separates the socially magnetic from everyone else. This persistent myth, that charisma is an innate trait rather than an accessible state, has created an artificial barrier between you and your natural capacity for magnetic presence. The truth reveals itself through careful observation. What appears as an intrinsic quality is actually the natural result of alignment between authentic presence, genuine interest in others, and confident expression. Think of light. A lamp doesn't strain to illuminate. It simply removes what blocks its natural radiance. Similarly, charisma emerges not through adding performative elements, but by removing what prevents your authentic expression from shining through. This fundamentally shifts how we understand magnetic presence. Instead of asking, "How can I become more charismatic?" the real question becomes, "What's blocking my natural charismatic expression?" This perspective transforms charisma from an unattainable trait into an accessible state. When you observe truly magnetic individuals, you'll notice they aren't performing charisma. They're simply free from the self-consciousness, approval-seeking, and performance anxiety that dim others' natural light. Their presence creates impact not because they're trying to be impressive, but because they've released the need to impress. The components that create charismatic presence: full engagement in the moment, authentic expression, genuine connection with others, are natural capacities we all possess. What appears as effortless social fluency is actually the absence of effort, the release of artificial constraints that block authentic expression. This understanding reveals why strategic approaches to developing charisma often backfire. When you try to be charismatic, you create internal division between the performer and the authentic self. This subtle separation is felt by others, creating precisely the opposite effect from what you intend. True magnetic presence emerges when you release the very attempt to be magnetic. Consider how often social impact diminishes exactly when you try hardest to create it. This inverse relationship between effort and effectiveness points to a fundamental truth. Charisma flows naturally when you stop trying to be charismatic. It emerges not from mastering external techniques, but from removing internal obstacles. The path to magnetic presence involves identifying and releasing these obstacles: the self-consciousness that creates monitoring, the approval-seeking that generates performance, the social anxiety that prompts self-protection. As these barriers dissolve, your natural charismatic presence emerges without effort. This might seem counterintuitive, especially if you've invested significant effort in developing social skills. Yet the distinction becomes clear when you observe the difference between performed confidence and embodied confidence, between trying to be interesting and being genuinely interested, between displaying presence and being fully present. The transformation occurs not through adding new behaviors, but through subtracting what blocks your natural expression. When you release the need to manage others' perceptions, when you let go of monitoring your social performance, when you stop trying to prove your value, this is when your authentic magnetic presence naturally emerges. This shift from performing to being creates sustainable charisma that doesn't deplete your energy or require constant maintenance. Unlike performed charisma, which creates exhaustion through endless monitoring and adjustment, natural charisma energizes both you and those around you because it flows from authentic alignment rather than strategic calculation. The most liberating aspect of this understanding is that it doesn't require you to become someone else or develop new personality traits. Your natural charismatic presence already exists. It simply awaits the removal of what blocks its expression. This perspective transforms the journey from an exhausting effort to acquire something new into an empowering process of revealing what's already there. Like a sculptor who doesn't add clay but removes stone to reveal the masterpiece within, your path to magnetic presence isn't about accumulating more social skills or personality traits. It's about stripping away the layers of self-doubt, social anxiety, and performative behaviors that hide your authentic nature. When you grasp this truth, the weight of trying to become someone else lifts, replaced by the freedom of knowing you're already equipped with everything you need. Chapter 18. The integrated self. Through years of working with individuals on their personal development journeys, I've observed a common pattern that creates profound social disconnection: the tendency to fragment ourselves across different social contexts. You recognize this experience, presenting one version of yourself to family, another to colleagues, and yet another to friends. Each persona feels partially authentic, yet somehow incomplete, leaving you wondering which truly represents the real you. This fragmentation, while seemingly adaptive, creates an exhausting internal division that prevents genuine connection. When we constantly shift between different versions of ourselves, we expend enormous energy managing these transitions and lose touch with our core, authentic presence. The result is a sense of disconnection not just from others, but from ourselves. Consider a deeply rooted tree that remains stable through changing seasons. Its branches may sway differently in summer breezes versus winter storms, but its essential nature remains unchanged. This represents the possibility of integrated presence, maintaining authentic expression while naturally adapting to different contexts without losing your core self. Integration differs fundamentally from social adaptability. Where adaptability often means becoming different people in different contexts, integration allows natural flexibility while maintaining consistent, authentic presence. It's the difference between wearing different masks versus allowing your authentic self to express appropriately across all situations. The path to integration begins with recognizing how fragmentation manifests in your life. Notice the subtle shifts in your personality between different social spheres, not just in behavior, which naturally varies by context, but in your fundamental sense of self. These shifts often occur automatically as ingrained patterns developed over years of social conditioning. Integration doesn't mean behaving identically in all situations. That would be both inappropriate and ineffective. Instead, it means maintaining consistent, authentic presence while allowing natural variation in expression. Your core values, emotional truth, and essential nature remain stable, even as their expression adapts to context. This integration transforms social experience profoundly. Instead of exhausting yourself managing different personas, you bring your whole self to each interaction. This creates deeper trust as others sense your consistency across contexts. It also frees enormous energy previously spent maintaining artificial divisions. Many resist integration, fearing that authentic presence might not be appropriate or accepted in all contexts. Yet experience shows that integrated authenticity, expressed with awareness of context, creates stronger connections than even the most skillfully managed fragmentation. Others trust and resonate with your genuine presence, even if they disagree with your perspective. Integration represents the culmination of the journey we've taken together, the final crossing of that invisible bridge between emotional intelligence and social fluency. It brings together all the elements we've explored: presence, authenticity, vulnerability, and charisma, unifying them into a coherent whole that expresses naturally across all contexts. This completes the transformation we began when examining what was missing from emotional intelligence alone. That missing element wasn't another technique or skill. It was the integration that allows internal awareness to flow outward as authentic social expression. Through this journey, you've discovered how to bridge that gap, creating genuine connection through consistent, authentic presence. Like that deeply rooted tree, you can now remain stable in your authentic expression while naturally adapting to life's changing seasons. This integration doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process of bringing more genuine presence to each context in your life. Yet with each step toward greater integration, you'll find yourself experiencing more authentic connection and less exhaustion from managing multiple personas. The social fluency you've been seeking emerges naturally from this integration, not as a set of skills to master, but as the authentic expression of your whole self across all contexts. This represents true social mastery, not the ability to perform differently for different audiences, but the capacity to bring genuine presence to every interaction while remaining true to your essential nature. Your interactions flow naturally when you no longer compartmentalize parts of yourself, allowing your emotional intelligence to merge seamlessly with your social expression. You'll find yourself responding to each situation with natural adaptability while maintaining an unwavering connection to your core truth. This isn't about becoming more skilled at managing different personas. It's about dissolving the perceived need for them altogether, revealing the profound simplicity of being authentically yourself in every moment. Conclusion. You've journeyed through these chapters with dedication, moving from recognizing the limitations of self-focused emotional intelligence to discovering a more expansive understanding of social dynamics. What began as a search for missing skills has revealed itself as something far more profound, a fundamental shift in how you perceive and participate in the dance of human connection. Throughout this exploration, you've uncovered how emotional resonance, authentic presence, and integrated expression weave together to create a natural social fluency that transcends technique. These aren't separate tools to master, but facets of a unified way of being that emerges when we release our limiting perspectives. The invisible bridge you've crossed isn't built of new skills or strategies. Instead, it represents the gradual dissolving of barriers between your well-developed emotional intelligence and its natural expression in the social world. Each chapter has illuminated another aspect of this crossing, showing how connection flows naturally when we stop treating it as a performance to perfect. From the introspection trap to emotional ecosystems, from presence to authentic influence, each insight builds upon the last to create a cohesive new vision of social dynamics. You've discovered how social mastery emerges not from accumulating more knowledge, but from seeing with new eyes, recognizing the shared fields of connection that were always present beneath your focus on performance and technique. This journey doesn't end with the final page. The perspectives you've gained will continue deepening through practice and experience. You'll have moments when old patterns resurface. This isn't failure, but an opportunity to recognize when limited perspectives have temporarily returned. Each recognition strengthens your capacity to shift back to this broader vision of connection. The title, "You're Emotionally Intelligent, but You're Missing Something," now reveals itself not as a statement of deficiency, but as an invitation to expand your perspective. The missing something was never a skill set you lacked, but a way of seeing that transforms how your emotional intelligence naturally expresses itself in the social world. You already possess everything needed for profound connection. Your emotional intelligence, your sensitivity, your desire for authentic relationships, these are the essential ingredients. What you've gained through these chapters is the vision to recognize how these qualities naturally create connection when freed from limiting perspectives. As you move forward, trust in this new understanding. Let it guide you beyond the pursuit of social techniques toward an authentic expression that naturally creates the connection you seek. The bridge has been crossed. The new territory lies before you, rich with possibilities for genuine connection that emerge naturally from your true nature. Thank you for listening to my audiobook. You've taken the first step. Now go write your story, one action. Thank you for listening to my audiobook. You've taken the first step. Now go write your story, one action at a time. You've got this.